Join me as I take on the challenge of finding out if most people actually agree with my opinions. Consensus can often be misleading, and it's essential to explore the nuances of public opinion. We tend to assume that everyone else thinks differently from us, but what if that's not the case? I think we've all been there, feeling like we're the only ones who think a certain way, that our opinions are going against the grain. It can be a really isolating experience, especially when it seems like everyone around us is in disagreement. But here's the thing, that might not be the case at all. In fact, it's possible that many people share our views, but for some reason, they're just not vocal about it. Maybe they're afraid of being judged, or they're worried about what others will think of them. Whatever the reason, it can be a really lonely experience feeling like you're the only one who thinks a certain way. It's particularly tough when you're surrounded by people who seem to have opposing views. You start to wonder if you're just crazy, if you're the only one who sees things a certain way. But the truth is, there are probably many more people out there who think like you do. They're just not speaking up. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that everyone else is against us, but the reality might be that there are many more people on our side than we realize. You start to question your own sanity, wondering if you're just being paranoid, or if your views really are that out of touch. But what if it's not that you're out of touch? What if it's just that everyone else is afraid to speak up? It's a really interesting dynamic, and one that I think is worth exploring further. There are so many examples of this playing out in the real world. Take, for instance, the results of a survey on climate change. You might assume that people are deeply divided on the issue, but in reality, a significant majority of people across the political spectrum agree that it's a serious problem that needs to be addressed. It's not just climate change either. There are plenty of other issues where you'd be surprised at the level of agreement across different groups. In fact, one study found that when people were asked to anonymously share their views on a range of issues, the results were much more uniform than expected. It turns out that people are a lot more like-minded than we often give them credit for. This got me thinking, what if we're not as divided as we think we are? What if beneath all the noise and argumentation, we're actually a lot more in agreement than we realize? I remember a really eye-opening conversation I had with a friend a few years ago. We were discussing politics, and I was assuming that we were going to be on opposite sides of the issue. But as we started talking, I realized that we were actually a lot more in agreement than I thought. It was a really liberating feeling, realizing that I wasn't alone in my views. And it got me thinking, how many other people out there might be thinking the same way as me? One statistic that really stood out to me was a study that found that 70% of Americans agree on the need for stricter gun control laws. That's a huge majority, and it really challenges the idea that we're deeply divided on the issue. It's easy to get caught up in the noise and the argumentation, but the reality is that there are a lot of people out there who share our views. We just need to look for them. So what does this all mean? I think it means that we need to be more open-minded, more willing to listen to each other, and find common ground. We need to realize that we're not as alone as we think we are, and that there are probably many more people out there who share our views than we realize. It's a really empowering feeling, knowing that you're not alone in your opinions. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to explore more about group dynamics and the power of finding common ground, be sure to check out my video on the psychology of influence. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think most people agree with you, or do you feel like you're in the minority? Let me know.